Ender pearls are now chunk loaders, mutant mobs got nerfed, and Minecraft's making big changes in how they're putting out updates. Hello there, Ray here. We got a brand new update to Minecraft. This is for upcoming 1.21 version, being snapshot 24W37A. There's a lot of big changes, so let's get into all those. Leave a like and let's get started. They made a big improvement to Ender pearls. Now they'll actually load chunks that they will fly through. So if I would lower down my simulation distance as well as render distance as low as possible, and then throw an Ender pearl over there, usually it would get stuck in unloaded chunks, but now it actually will hit the ground as it loads the chunks that it flies into. Now speedrunners would take advantage of it getting stuck in unloaded chunks, so they can throw a pearl in a far location, and then they would lower their render distance so it would get stuck there, and then they could always make the player teleport there by increasing the render distance once again so they teleport. So with this change, they'll no longer be able to do that, but we get the big advantage of being able to throw pearls across chunk borders. So in this example where I showed before, where let's say you're throwing a pearl through this portal, and you want to go into the nether. So if I would throw a pearl through here, it would pop out this side. Typically, it would be able to make it into this chunk here, and it'll also be able to fly through this chunk here, as any item going through a portal will load the center chunk and a circle around them worth of chunks, including this one. But then in the past, the pearl would just get stuck up against this edge here, and it would end up in this chunk, but then get unloaded by the game. And that's just where it would sit until somebody else came through the portal and loaded this, in which case it would load the pearl would continue to fly and then land over here and teleport the player if they were online. But now that it will automatically load chunks as it gets thrown, if I would throw a pearl through here, it will teleport me way over here, and where we're currently at would normally be an unloaded chunk, meaning it actually loaded this chunk and landed and actually teleported me. So we can use this to travel out really far, really fast. If I now throw a pearl through here, it immediately takes me over to a completely different area that is really, really far away. And the way I did this is by having this portal here in the overworld connected to one in the nether, and then this one is far away from the original one. So our pearl got shot out of here, went through the nether, loaded these chunks, went through this one, and then sent me into the overworld. And because for every meter you travel in the nether, you travel 8 in the overworld, just by jumping over 3 chunks, we traveled 24 chunks in the overworld, which is almost 400 blocks just like that. And we can combine this with massive explosions to send the pearls infinite distances, as no matter how far it travels out, it will continue to be loading chunks. So we can essentially use this to send an ender pearl to teleport us all the way to the world border. And I know quite a lot about the world border, as I was the first player to reach all 12 world borders in survival. But there still seems to be a bug with the wind charges. Notice when they hit here, all of a sudden some of them happen to hit the edge before the rest of them, and then the rest of them hit the edge when they all got moved as a single group and were aligned, so they should have all hit at the exact same time. Then this machine can be used to launch ender pearls really far with the large explosions that come from the wind charges. You want to learn about this crazy machine which can stack wind charges to make massive explosions, instant kill the wither, the dragon, and even the warden, as well as launch things really, really far. I'll put that video in the description. Now, because ender pearls can now load chunks when they go over a chunk border, we can actually use these as chunk loaders to load chunks which are not normally being loaded around the player, as the game will only load things around the player and everything else in the game is typically unloaded. You guys can learn all about chunk loading in this video here, which covers not only that, but a whole bunch of other common questions people ask about chunks and how things interact with them. But there is a downside, as they also have made it now that ender pearls will unload when the player logs out, and then they'll reappear when the player logs back in again. This is similar to anything that the player rides, so if I'm riding this boat and I'm on a server and I log out, not only do I log out, but also the boat logs out with me. This is a cool trick we can use to store more stuff safely on your character, as the boat or the horse also leaves the server so no one else can steal your stuff that's inside of it. This also means nobody can mess with your ender pearl when you're offline because it just won't be there for them to see. It also means that it won't be chunk loading other chunks unless you have a player that's always online. But on the flip side, you could purposely use that to actually load faraway chunks by programming the player logging off for a certain amount of time to make it do certain calculations in a far off distance. I showed this trick a long time ago in this video here, where you can actually teleport out infinite distances without any redstone, just by sending a code by logging off at certain times with certain delays. So I'm definitely gonna have a lot of fun making these type of machines, so make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on that, and have that bell notification clicked and set to all. Last week I showed that you can make some weird mutant mobs with last week's changes, where mobs that get converted, like a zombie villager into a zombie, keep a lot of their data. This made some mutant mobs, which I made a whole video about and I'll put in the description so you guys can check out later. So they made some things not convert between the two versions of the mob, including health attributes, which does include their speed and these other things down here, as well as loot tables, as before they accidentally were given the loot table of the previous one, such as this villager, when it would die, would actually drop rotten flesh because it still thought it was a zombie villager. So this is the current list of everything that does get transferred over if it applies to that mob. And if it's a mob that splits into multiple mobs, such as like a big slime splitting into multiple smaller slime, then this is the data that gets transferred with it. So if a large slime is given the weaving effect and then it dies, it will produce webs, but also the medium-sized ones also have the weaving effect, so if they are killed, they're going to produce web. And then the tiny ones also get the effect, and they also will produce web when they die. So you can end up with a lot more web inside of the trial spawners when you're fighting something like slimes. This doesn't actually help when it comes to the web farms, because the player is just limited by how many webs it can break per hour, and not actually how many mobs can produce webs. And these properties here are intentionally not transferred over. And the big one that they fix is that villagers that are supposed to get converted over into zombies upon their death will no longer just completely die and will now actually convert. So join my live stream as I take a look at all of these data changes and see what type of mutant mods we can still make. And you can find my streaming schedule in the description. They fixed one old bug in this snapshot, and this is the one where boats that fall at certain heights will end up breaking. And Matt Parker did a whole video on this on his math YouTube channel, talking about the math behind why they actually break. It has to do with them going into the ground, clipping in the ground, which is causing them to break. This was really annoying, especially speedrunners who use boat to negate fall damage. Depending on how far they actually fall, there's sometimes they would break and take damage, and they would even end up dying. So now with this fix, doesn't matter where you fall or how far you fall, your boat won't break and you won't take damage. They fixed a bug that I reported. That is, if you have a breeze that's right beside you, they'll try to shoot you, but they'll never actually shoot out any breeze wind charges. So now they'll shoot you even if you're in the same block. If you would place down leaves, those are considered leaves that should not despawn no matter if there's logs nearby or not. And then if you grow a tree near that, the new tree that spawned in would then convert those leaves over to the ones that are no longer persistent, and they would actually decay, which was a bug in the game since 1.19. When it comes to the bug fixes this week, almost all of them are snapshot only problems that came up ever since they started switching everything over, but there's some really funny ones, so let's go through them. Mobs weren't actually taking any damage when walking through sweet berries, and you won't be able to use right click to place skulls or carve pumpkins directly onto your head anymore. Wind charges were accidentally hitting mobs higher than they're supposed to. As you can see, they're going much higher than normal. A known issue from last week was fixed, and that is ender pearls were not teleporting you to the actual correct location. Shields will once again block arrows when before they did not. Elytras won't take durability when the player takes damage anymore. Boats will once again drop items when they're broken instead of being bugged out and dropping nothing. Gas were ended up doing more damage than they're supposed to, where they could just instant kill players in one hit. They fixed it so that mobs that have maces can now actually do extra damage just as if the player was using that mace. And if you would die from one of these mobs with a mace, instead of just getting the default death message, it'll be the mace death message. Stacking too many minecarts together and then running into a block will no longer cause the game to completely freeze out. They also fixed a crash when multiple skeletons will shoot at once, or if a boat is destroyed, you'll no longer crash your game. And something we experienced on stream is crashing if you try to pick block a boat. The last couple snapshots broke quite a few stuff, and they came in and fixed a lot of that, including visual bugs, player movement problems, and data pack related stuff. And data pack and resource packs that got updated to have all these new things added into them as well. Minecraft just announced that they're changing up how they're doing their Minecraft live event and how they're going to time between coming out with major updates. But first up, instead of having one Minecraft live, usually around the month of October, they are now going to have 2 per year, and each of them is going to be packed full of everything that we need to know about the latest features that they're working on for the upcoming versions. And of course, they use this opportunity to talk about other Minecraft franchises like Minecraft Dungeons and Minecraft Legends. Now, usually right around this time of the year, they come out with the Minecraft Live announcement, so we know what the date is, so we still don't know when the next Minecraft Live is going to come out. And the reason why they're switching to 2 Minecraft Lives is so that they can better show everything that they are working on. And along with this change to Minecraft Live, they are also retiring the mob boat. The mob boat was always pretty controversial, with people being upset that a lot of people would end up voting for something that they thought was just like cute rather than something that actually brought more features into the game. Like in the last mob vote, I really wanted the crab with its crab claw, which allowed the players to reach farther. But it turns out the armadillo with its dog armor beat the crab, probably just because a lot of people like their dogs and wanted armor on it. So maybe with all the bickering back and forth, they decided to just remove it. It was causing too much of a hassle. People were complaining about how the mobs that lost weren't really making it into the game. Although they did say that those mobs that lose end up going back into their ideas bag, so they might get pulled from in the future. I don't know if we really ever seen any examples of one that got added in later on. And even before the mob vote, they did like the whole biome vote thing. And with the biome votes, they said that out of 3 that we gotta choose to vote for, whichever one won would be the first one to get updated, and the other 2 biomes would get updated later. But they've yet to actually update all the biomes. Now on the flip side, the mob vote actually brought a lot of people into the game of Minecraft to vote and discuss the new potential mobs. So I actually really enjoyed the mob vote, just seeing what everyone thought of the new mobs and what could potentially come out of them if they were added. So it'll be interesting if they just completely stopped doing the whole voting thing. Maybe they thought there was too many people influencing it, like big content creators telling everybody to vote a certain way. What's your guys' thoughts on the whole voting thing? Do you think there was more negatives than positives? And it'll be interesting to see if they bring in some other type of voting. Maybe we vote for an entire theme or something. Now the other big news is that they're coming out with more regular feature drops. And this is what they were doing when they came out with like the bats earlier with the whole retexturing of them. And then the whole armored paws update, which was kind of like a minor update between full releases. Yet it did bring out the big changes with all the different dog variations, wolf armor, and armadillo stuff. And even back then I did point this out that it looks like they were coming out with substantial features in between the actual major full releases. It seems like this is what they are going for now going forward. They're going to do some like really big updates, but they're also going to do kind of some smaller updates in between, which overall is going to bring more life into Minecraft because people don't really have to sit there and wait for like just one big update, which was typically coming out during the summers. But like 5 years ago, they announced that they were going to try to do 2 updates per year, one in the summertime and one in the wintertime. And then they got kind of bad doing the winter one. So it seemed like they just kind of focused just doing the 1 update per year. But now it sounds like we're just going to get updates whenever they're kind of ready, which will bring excitement towards Minecraft all year round. But for me, a content creator, it does make it a little bit confusing because I don't know when exactly stuff will come out. If I want to schedule like a vacation, how do I schedule that around it? And when I'm designing my different farms and machines, keeping track of all the new stuff and trying to keep up to date on all my old farms as well. And the farms that I have linked here on the Farm Everything spreadsheet are the ones that work in the most current versions. So if you're not sure if a farm works or not, you can always check onto here. I'll have this linked down in the description. So what do you think of this change? We also talk about how the developers are working on long-term innovations for the future of the game. And it turns out they're working on a native version for the PlayStation 5 players so that they can play along with all the other Bedrock players. Now, if you are a PlayStation player, let me know how it was in the past. Were you guys kind of like on your own, and did you guys have your own kind of version where you couldn't play with everyone else? They also mentioned how they're really using the feedback from the players on their official Minecraft feedback page, such as like the cherry groves came from there and the reskinning of the dogs. As well as the whole armadillo eye thing, where they changed eyes from being in front to being on the sides. Now join my live stream or check out this playlist all about other crazy tricks. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye!